Oh, a WR125. Are you racing? Of course you're racing. Every 125 races. And watch out! Hi, it's Andrzej. I just ate the best zapiekanka in town, and probably the most expensive one too. 24 zlotys. Well, with extras, it was delicious. But when you think about paying 24 zlotys for zapiekanka, and then about having a motorcycle for 17,000 zlotys, and I'll tell you in a moment what kind of motorcycle it is, because we've had it for a long time, suddenly the motorcycle seems like quite a bargain. I'll get straight to the best gadgets. Look at this. Everything is button operated. Zontes is a Chinese brand, everyone knows that. I think, unless you don't. But it's Chinese in a different way. Definitely different. For example, we have this eco button, sport mode, and things like that. This motorcycle has illuminated gauges, Bosch injection, Bosch ABS system. Everything. Wait, let me get off it for a moment. Even though it looks quite controversial to me, it can actually be appealing. I've actually been eyeing the Zontes for a while now, since it's been in our editorial office for 2 or 3 months. What I think makes this the least Chinese motorcycle, you know, the least Chinese motorcycle I've ever known or come across, is that it doesn't rust. American motorcycles rust. A lot of motorcycles rust, and this one, since it was used by many members of the editorial team, was ridden in all kinds of conditions. You can see that it's just dirty, but notice that everywhere here, there's not a speck of rust. Usually, you know, with those inexpensive motorcycles from China, rust first appears around the bolts. But here, the rust resistance test has been passed. Here, you can see it's a bit scratched from boots, but that's because it was also ridden off-road a bit, and there were, you know, tall boots here. Here you can see that there have been some tip-overs. We can already see, I mean, I can see that, well, I don't like it. I don't like these bars. And on top of that, this crash bar, but combined with the handguards, look, this is sturdier than on the Ducati Multistrada. Ducati Multistrada, you can simply drop this motorcycle. I mean, I don't recommend it, but you can drop it whether off-road or just in a parking lot, and you just pick it up and keep going. As for the ride itself, last year I already made a short video about the Zontes, because it went like this. You know, I can't ride everything, so these Student 500S only occasionally end up in my hands, even though I personally love riding a Student 500 around the city, but I just have my own scooter. But every time I got my hands on a Zontes, I thought, damn, this looks weird. Once I took a ride on the 125 and I was shocked at how well it rides, because it was me riding it. And it's not just that it's a Chinese motorcycle that's almost as good or could compete with Japanese or European ones. No. In my opinion, in many ways, it is better than many of the bikes we know. Oh, Spiderweb Tomic? What do you think about Zontes?
Which one?
Well, the one you drove, U125.
I like it very much.
What for?
For being small and good, it just rides very fast. Absolutely great, convenient transportation and navigating urban environments. It's a bit stiff.
How so? The suspension?
Yeah, it just keeps in my bag.
Ah, you see, maybe I didn't ride it long enough. And what about over bumps and gravel roads?
Yeah, maybe.
Alright then. Listen, you're on a hidden camera.
Thank you.
I called you while filming a piece about the Zontes, and I thought, let's see spontaneously whether I'm talking nonsense or you're lying.
Oh no. At least you managed to keep it civil.
No kidding. You're a polite young man.
Of course.
Thank you very much for making...
Thank you. Take care.
Take care. When it comes to Chinese equipment, the Chinese often manage to pack in, you know, heavy-duty suspension, big brakes, powerful calipers, a solid frame, but they often go overboard. For example, something might be too stiff for the engine's power, or it doesn't quite work with the frame. You know, it's all crammed in just to be there, not really made to work properly. Because then you come across a Honda or a Suzuki, which has a much simpler suspension than this motorcycle, like, you know, sometimes a Suzuki GSX 125. You look at that suspension and think it can't possibly work, because the tubes are so thin, but then it turns out that everything is so well tested and calculated that you actually ride better on those thin tubes than on the thick forks of motorcycles that are poorly tuned. And here it's just the complete opposite. So everything here is very solid, and at the same time the chassis and brakes are perfectly integrated, you see. Now when you brake, look how smoothly the lever moves. You even have an adjustment so you can set the lever to fit your hand perfectly. You often don't even get that in expensive motorcycles. The same goes for the clutch lever, and I think these are pretty important things, especially for beginners. I mean, important and not important. The point is, if you don't know something can be adjusted, you just get used to the clutch lever being somewhere out there, or the brake, for example, being either too far or too close. Usually the brake is so far away, and I really don't like levers that are far away. I prefer to have better control and feel, so you just get used to it. But then it turns out you can actually adjust it, and suddenly it's perfect. Pay attention to how the gearbox works here. You can upshift without the clutch, and you can do a blip just as well. Everything just slots in perfectly. Oh, okay, that was a bit too much. And the engine has 15 horsepower, 14.6. Oh, I've already exceeded the speed limit. 14.6 horsepower, which is basically the maximum allowed by the regulations. Let me check. We're gonna do a braking test. I'm delaying. Braking now. No. Man, I'm good. On the ABS, true, but the ABS is the kind you can really feel working. But this motorcycle, you see it squatted down, stuck to the ground. No drama at all. Adam, how do you remember the Zontes?
The Zontes, very well.
What did you like about it?
It was normal. Everything worked just like on a regular motorcycle. Very solid. They brake really nicely.
Did you have any adventures with it?
It slid sideways across the grass.
And did you ride it on gravel roads? You did, right?
Yeah,
And all good.
yeah, but that big tire in the back really does the job.
Yeah, but I see it's even a bit torn up. Looks like it even picked up some rocks. That's great. Adam, you're on a hidden camera.
Awesome.
It's not like I'm trying to hype it up or anything. I just think it's an awesome piece of gear for beginners, and if you compare its price to others, it's really great. And listen, now the most important thing, where am I going? Even today, Adam Jenka messaged me asking if we could do something about the sound. I've really been struggling with the sound issue. It's honestly my curse. I'm making another attempt now because I'm going on a big trip, so I'm going to buy some more gadgets. I'm going to the store I always go to in Warsaw, so I can recommend it as well. Maybe they'll give me a 5% discount if I use the code Andres. Consumer tip. Even if you're squeezing through traffic, sometimes it's not worth it to cut in front of a guy like that when the light turns green. Because look at that guy, he's sitting up so high, and you really wouldn't want him not to see you. Here's a size comparison. Oh, a WR125. Are you racing? Of course you're racing. Every 125 races. And watch out! Man, I wonder if he had the throttle all the way open. If he did have the throttle wide open, that means the Zontes is faster than the WR125. But what a cool supermoto. And you rarely see these around, even though they're just brilliant. There's actually an interesting story, which I don't fully know, because it's more of a legend. Oh wow, maybe 8 years ago, Damien, who was still working at Romit back then, told me about how they were in China at this guy's factory, and he was just starting to make motorcycles, and that these motorcycles were going to be something really special, totally different from anything else. That was very rude, the way you pulled the dog. Behaviors like that really annoy me. You could have stopped the dog more gently after all. And so, there's this guy. Alright. So there's another guy, another Chinese brand. So what happened? Well, Zontes appeared in Poland, and it turned out that this guy was actually Zontes. And now I know more stories from a visit to the Zontes factory, that this factory is just, well, something out of this world, because the guy who founded it is, of course, a Chinese billionaire, and he approached the whole thing very ambitiously. He decided he would build the best factory, the best motorcycles, the best R&D department, and so on. And everything looks like one big sterile laboratory. But the best part is that there's a separate department working on a flying car. You know, like a drone for people or some other solution. Some kind of absurd idea, like many eccentrics come up with. And this shows, and you can see it in this motorcycle, every single part of it screams that it has to be futuristic, it has to be modern, and so on. In my opinion, it's maybe even a bit too exaggerated. But it's also a style, it's distinctive. I haven't ridden these Zontes 300S enough. I'm curious about how it is. There's nothing typically sporty about it, but honestly, no one buys it for that and no one rides it that way, but there are some that are more touring oriented. I'm curious how it would perform, for example, on a track day. We're arriving at my favorite gadget shop because I have a huge trip ahead of me. I'll be wandering around Italy for over 2 weeks. This is the moment of truth now. It's either better or worse. Before, at least I had some control over it, but now I don't know because I bought a media mod for the GoPro, which means the sound goes straight to the GoPro. Not like before when I had to use a separate recorder and then synchronize it and so on. But I also bought some extra DJI microphones separately to see how they would, how they would perform while vlogging or just recording in general. Listen, I'm doing what I can, but if you need gadgets for your GoPro, I can actually recommend this place. And it's not because they're giving me a discount, well, actually. They only started doing that today, so I figured I'd return the favor. But honestly, every time I've come here to shop, they've had everything in stock. The guy is letting me go. But you know what? Honestly, it's not worth it. Look, there's a spot. The guy just let me go a moment ago, but here's another piece of consumer advice. Well, I don't know if it's consumer advice, no, it's more like life advice. When the big wheel's moving around you, even if you have a bit of space, it's better to be cautious or just speed up. But look how nice it is here for the Zontes. And sure, we can laugh at these kinds of handguards, but I've had it happen more than once in my life that I clipped the mirror, and I really recommend stopping and apologizing in those situations, because often there's no damage at all, and it helps build a better image among motorcyclists and keeps people from getting upset. After all, we do have liability insurance just in case. It's just worth it, plain and simple. But it's really about the fact that if you hit a mirror in a traffic jam with this, you probably won't even feel it. But if you were to hit it with your hand, because you're a beginner motorcyclist and didn't aim quite right, it could be pretty unpleasant. Alright, now quickly, before it hits me that this is pointless, whose bike can do a wheelie? GoPro with Rove Pro hat doesn't matter if the sound, the fight with the modes and everything else when the battery still died at the most important moment. To sum up, Zontes is actually really cool.